Just lost a ton of work and it's going to take me a minute to get this posted. So let me I'm going to have to do this over again. I just did this file, but I should be nice and warmed up for you. Okay, so we're going to start out with a warm up. I'm going to start out by drawing ellipses. I like to draw ellipses as a warm up because they loosen me up and they also get me drawing flowing shapes. Okay, and then the next part of the warm up, cubes. And then I'll start to quiz this cube and see if I've got problems with it, and I do. And that helps a lot. I've got those 3 problems that I can run into. Just going through and letting the thing come back around into a nice place. And then there's the sagittal line, the transverse plane, and the coronal plane. And at this point in this semester, it would be great if you guys could do a beautiful drawing of this. And look at how this line is out of perspective. Can you guys see how that line is violating the overall perspective? So I want to go and see what I can do about that. It clearly needed to move in that direction. Okay, and I don't have a beautiful line quality, but structurally I'm moving towards correct. And we think about these things in the light. This creates a graphic shadow pattern. And when you're doing your shading, I would ask you to kind of slow down and think of it as finishing, and it's a cleaner, slower part of your drawing process. A lot of times it feels like our shading is kind of a little bit of an afterthought, but the shading is really, it's like this whole beautiful process. So I'm adding dark lines where I have occlusion. I'm adding dark lines where I have core shadow, right? I'm going to my contour and developing the drawing along the contour. Okay, starts becoming a kind of a reasonable diagram of a cube. And let's draw a sphere. And that will be the sagittal plane. And that will be the transverse. And this, I'm going to have the coronal be towards the edge. That will be the coronal plane, and then it will come up in that edge. And this is all stuff that, you know, in my own drawing practice, I wish I was better at. But as good as, however good I am at it, it's served me well. So this is in the back side, so lighten it. And from the center, you could find a center. Here's a center, and we'll drop down. This is inside, and when I get outside, I'm going to darken. I'm going to darken a little bit. Okay, and I can pass from this point to that point. So darken, lighten. I'm going to lighten and then darken as I move that way. And so now I start to insinuate dimensionality. So I'm going to pass from here, that will be the darkest part of this, and here, and this in here is a nice light connection across the form. You can see how I missed it. And my light direction will be like this, okay? And there's an ellipse that represents the cut of the light. So if my light direction is coming from that way, this ellipse represents a contour built for us by the direction of the light. And over here, we're in shadow. And it's the shadow edge receives a darkening, kind of core shadow darkening, which opens up the reflected light. This would be shadow accent, working for contour. I can clean out the light side of the form to increase the sense of volume. Okay, and so this becomes a really reasonable diagram of a cylindrical form, a spherical form. Here would be a cylinder. We'll do one more of these. So to draw the cylinder, we work from an ellipse, and that's the minor axis. And here's our bottom of cylinder. The bottom of the cylinder is done symmetrically along the same lines as the top of the cylinder. The one difference is it's the diameter of the cylinder on the bottom is a little bit bigger than the diameter of the cylinder on the top. And we can impose a sagittal cut, and we can impose a coronal cut, and we could put another transverse plane. This has already two transverse planes, one at the top and one at the bottom, but we could put another transverse plane, which kind of inelegant, my execution here, a little clumsy. Okay, so these three diagrams are essential to the work that we've done this semester, and I'd love to see you guys draw these three diagrams and see if you could do a really nice job. If this was going to be lit, the light on these has a tendency to fall in strips. I'm going to do really rudimentary graphic shading on this. So that's occlusion. happening underneath. I'm going to clean out the area and the light. I want to reinforce the contour. Lighten up structure lines. Maybe suggest a direction for cast shadow. Clean out my reflected light. Okay. And that's the sort of basics of geometric solids. Right here would be my terminator. I can go through and darken along the edge of the terminator. And tidy. There you go. I want to stop here, and I'll do a separate video, okay, for our figure.